Welcome everyone to the first episode of our Marketing Masterclass. Unfortunately, the video is not working, so we're going to do our best. But I'm joined today by Victoria Bradley, who is a colleague and friend of mine's, and is also a startup specialist, business mentor, and also a coach. Lots of talent, and she's going to be talking us through the business model canvas today.
As Lee said, my name's Victoria Bradley. I'm a business advisor. I work with people who are starting businesses on a daily basis to help them kind of shape their business going forward and to sense check with them. I'm also a business coach and work with a few clients just to help them develop their own personal skills as they go along. And I'm also a startup founder, and I'm running a little business just now called Boob Bling, which is about breast milk jewellery. Very random subject area, but you can check Boob Bling out if you want to later. So yeah, I'd encourage you to ask as many questions as you'd like as we go along. It's supposed to be an interactive workshop, and we'll try and get off by 11 a.m. if anyone's looking to do the NHS 2-minute silence. I don't want to run over that just in case. So got a quick poll to start us off. Do you have any up-to-date business plan at the moment? Have you got that poll, Lee, that you can?
Yeah, just a second. Cool. There we go. Should see that, guys.
And this is just to get a steer as to, you know, is a business plan even something that's on your horizon? Is it one of those things that you always say, I'll get around to it and never actually do? So just to get an idea of where we're at.
Cool. So 37% of people have got a one-pager.
Great. Okay. It's quite a nice mix there, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think most of it generally lives in our head. A fairly comprehensive business plan. If you're taking on investment or you're a large organization, often you'll have something like that. Or sometimes if it's your first business, you think, oh shoot, I better have something like that. So you go hardcore on the business plan. But yeah, slide deck, great. One pager is generally all you need to get you started or to keep you on the right track, is what we found from our experience. So if you can hop onto the slides, Lee. So yeah, why use a business model canvas? Lee did a quick poll earlier. How many people, Lee, would you say have used a canvas before?
I think there was only a few hands that went up, to be honest. So
Okay.
yeah, not too many.
Cool. And Lee will have sent you through a couple of links before this workshop, so hopefully you've had a chance to have a little look at the business model canvas. It's just another really useful tool, I guess, to have in your repertoire. It's useful as a sense check for your business. So whether you're starting out or whether you're, you know, further along in your journey, you can use it to kind of sense check where you are and if you're still aligned with your value proposition and your customer segments. You can use it as a tool to test new products or services. If you're thinking about changing direction, it's really useful for that. It's also really useful to succinctly explain your business to someone. If you can get it down to one page, it makes it much easier to summarize exactly what you do and who you do it for. And it's also a really useful tool just to highlight your business basics. For example, if you are looking to get some copywriting done or some marketing done for your business, completing a business model canvas can often give someone else a really good sway and understanding of your business for that reason. And everyone that's on this webinar today is kind of at an advantage using the business model canvas already, because you're already operating, I'm assuming so anyway. So you're not guessing a lot of the elements of the business model canvas, which is where startups kind of begin. It's also a really great tool in times of uncertainty and when we need to change and adapt our business model. You'll have seen, you know, through this global pandemic that a lot of businesses have had to kind of test and change their business model or pivot, leading to, you know, a different market offering or a different customer segment. For example, a lot of breweries have been changing to make hand sanitizer, such as Brewdog. Pizza chains such as Edinburgh-based Chiverinos now sell do-it-yourself kits online rather than delivering pizza. So there's loads of examples of how businesses have had to adapt during the COVID crisis. And the business model canvas can be a really useful tool just to get all of that down on one page before you move forward with a pivot. Just out of interest, there's another quick poll here to see if you've had to adapt your business model due to the COVID pandemic.
Very interesting. Only a few people have had to completely change their model.
Yeah, okay.
It's interesting. And yeah, most people have either had to change it a little bit or it's stayed completely the same, which is interesting.
That's great. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess an example, it really is like bricks and mortar shops have maybe had to go online, or those without a great online presence have perhaps had to gear up their online presence there. But that's very interesting. Okay, Lee, next slide.
Cool.
So as you'll have seen, the business model canvas is kind of made up of 9 easy to digest segments. I'll go through them all in a bit more depth in a moment, but it's a really easy document that you can kind of print off in A4 or A3 size. You can cover it in post-it notes, or you can use an online tool like Canvanizer, which Lee linked to before the presentation, to do an online version. And it's actually a really interesting exercise to do with your team as well. If you get maybe 4 or 5 or however many of the senior or leadership people in your organisation to go away and fill out a canvas, come together and see how well it aligns, can be a really good indicator as to if you're on the right track and if you're sending out the right messages within your team and within the brand as well. As you'll see, we don't tackle it in order from left to right. We start with the most pivotal sections, which are the customer segments and the value proposition. And these are really the foundations that inform the rest of the canvas as we go along. So I'll go over these in a little bit of detail, and then we'll use a live example a little bit further on. So the customer segments and the value proposition are absolutely the most key points of the whole business model canvas. Customer segments is really talking about who is your ideal customer. This could be considered your customer avatar, your customer persona, but it's who is that person and why will they buy whatever you're offering. You might have multiple customer segments, and it's also thinking about who actually makes the buying decision when it comes to your product or service. And it's important to remember really that you exist to serve your customers, they don't exist to buy from you. So your customer segments should be as detailed as possible. You should get to the stage really where you can give the persona a name and a description, an age, a job, a real personality, and make them a live person. And your customer segments do evolve over time as well. So when you're thinking about who your customer segments are, just consider, where they spend their time, where you find them, what their buying behavior is, what their general actions and behaviors are, and their geographic, sociographic, and demographic behaviors as well. And that really helps to shape who your customer is. And you can imagine that that has a massive impact on the rest of your business as well, because if you really understand the motivations and behaviors behind your customer, it allows your value proposition to be clearer, it allows your marketing strategy to be much clearer, it allows your approach to customer service to be clearer, it allows your sales channels to be clearer. So really defining who the customer is in as much detail as possible is absolutely key to the start of your business. And like I say, you can have a couple of personas, a couple of customer segments. And starting with 2 or 3 doesn't mean that down the line, it means basically down the line you can extend to more customers. But if you start with just a few key customer segments, it allows your business and marketing positioning to be as focused as possible, which is really, really important. I had a question, if anyone would like to share their customer segment or their customer persona. If anyone's quite clear already on theirs.
Going to just stop sharing so I can see in the chat if anyone wants to share. If you could just comment in the chat, it would be good to hear some real life examples of customer personas. No worries if not. We're going to go into a working example anyway Paul. I can see
Oh, yeah.
Paul has commented. Just give me a second, Paul, and I'll see if I can unmute you.
Oh, we can see. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, talk to Paul.
Actually, just 2 seconds. I can't actually see how to unmute. No, I've got a bit of a. Oh, here we go. 2 secs. Yeah, Paul, I've just unmuted you, so you should be able to share that. That'd be great if you could.
Hi, Lee.
Hi, Paul.
Yeah, so we've got a customer persona called Lauren. She's in her late 20s, early 30s. She's on her first or second home, married with 1 or 2 kids. Usually got a decent income, and they're kind of heavily impacted by social media, and the type of person that would go on and ask on Facebook for the nearest restaurant rather than going on and Googling it. So that's our customer persona.
That's brilliant. What is your business, Paul?
We're in estate agents.
Ah, great. Okay. Right. Fabulous. So yeah, that gives you a really detailed direction, especially for marketing strategy, doesn't it? It really, really helps to shape that.
Yeah, definitely.
Fab.
Perfect.
Okay.
Anyone else? I can see Gillian. Gillian, do you want to share your personas? Just wondering. So she's in the chat section. She said, as a care home operator, we have 2 segments: the residents we care for and the relatives who often make the decisions. I think that's super important.
Definitely. It's recognizing who your customer is, but who is the person who makes the buying decisions, because at the end of the day, that's the person that you're trying to win over to a certain extent.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Perfect. Okay. Thanks everyone for sharing. Cool. I'll go back to share screen, Vix. There we go.
Cool. So the next segment is value proposition. And that's really thinking about what pain point are you solving for your customer? What is the one thing that you're doing that makes your customer's life easier, more fun? Who are you building your product or service for? What is really unique about your offering as well? I mean, just using Paul's example as an estate agent, you know, it's easy to say that we are the best estate agent in Edinburgh. That's not enough. What really is unique about your product or service? You know, it could be down to price, it could be down to customer service, it could be down to speed. There's many things that technology, there's many things you could use to define your value proposition. So it's important that you think in a lot more depth about that. What need of your customers are you trying to satisfy? And really, why should they buy from you? That's the key message that you're trying to get across with your value proposition. And hopefully understanding the customer segment, you can see why it's really important. Those 2 pillars are extremely important because they have to align. And it's pivotal to the whole canvas, really. If your value proposition is too generic, then you really don't have any unique selling point that you can move forward with. Yeah. And it's important to note as well that you might have slightly different value propositions for slightly different customers as well. So with the example of the nursing home, the uniqueness that you're trying to sell to the decision maker versus a care home, the person that's going to be in the care home, sorry, my words have lost me. The messages that you're going to be sending those people are slightly different. So you have to make sure that your value propositions meet the individual needs of both of those people, the resident, that's the word I was looking for. And then moving on to channels. So it's thinking about how your product or service is sold and how it's distributed, but not just how it's sold just now. How does the customer want to be reached? Are you selling in a way that they want to receive? So using the example of COVID, there's a lot of businesses that have had to go online now that may have been bricks and mortar before or may not have sold in that way. Actually, is that what customers wanted all along? And is that the direction that they're going to have to take their businesses after lockdown's over as well? I think a lot of businesses in that sense will probably find the answer is yes. So customer relationships, you are having a think really here about what kind of relationships you build with your customer, it's really about the customer journey and thinking about the customer journey in terms of the start of the customer journey, how they'll find out about you, how will you keep them as customers, how will they grow with you, and how will you monetize them as new customers and as continuing customers if there's an opportunity to do so. So really thinking about the full circle of the customer journey, and even to the extent of how they're managed after they make the purchase with you. It's just nurturing those customer relationships. And then we have revenue streams. So we want to think about what sales allow you to capture the most value from your customer. You know, what's your general revenue model? But also kind of what money do you need to make the business a success? It's often worth thinking about doing a survival budget for your business as well. So knowing the minimum viable amount of revenue that you have to make in your business for you to kind of pay all the basics and pay yourself as a stepping stone to understand the revenue stream in your business. And then after that, we have got key resources. So key resources are really looking at the strategic assets in your business. So those might be physical assets, such as, you know, workspace, storage space. They could be the intellectual assets, such as IP, copyright, legal things, human assets, such as the people in your business, and then financial assets, such as, you know, funding opportunities and things like that. Okay.
I think just on revenue streams, Vix, I think it's been really interesting to see different types of brands and businesses that have been creating new revenue streams
definitely.
in a time of crisis, looking at how they can extract value from customers, perhaps new customers completely, which it's been quite interesting to.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have asked their current customers, you know, to pay in advance for things like Brew Labs, for example. You can pay in advance for a coffee that you'll get in the future, and a lot of hair and beauty brands have done the same. So yeah, people are definitely getting a little bit more creative with their revenue streams in this kind of time, for sure.
And I think the brands that have been able to do that successfully are the ones who really, in granular detail, understand who their customers are and how they serve them, because I think that demonstrates a really strong relationship, and it allows brands to do that sort of thing, you know, to ask a customer to pay for something in advance that they might not see for a few months. Just demonstrates a lot of brand equity from customers.
100%, and an understanding and a trust as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Okay, so the final kind of 3 pillars of the business model canvas to consider are the key activities. So these directly relate back to your value proposition. So it's kind of what activities do you need to do in your business to make your business function, to make it work, to ensure that you're achieving whatever is in your value proposition. And then we've got key partners. So this is quite an important one that's often overlooked. It's looking at the tasks and activities that you need done but don't do yourself, which, you know, is quite simple. But it's also a really good leverage tool if you can look at who shares the same target audience as you, and build partnerships with those kinds of people. You know, if there's a potential organization or business out there that already has, say, 1,000 of your potential target audience, your customer segment, doesn't it make more sense to try and build some kind of partnership or relationship with them than to try and find those individual 1,000 individual people on your own? So try and think of partnerships not only as people that can do tasks and activities for you, but people who you can leverage who share your target audience. And then cost structure. So that's looking at the most important costs to get out your business, any potential expenses, and basically kind of what it will end up costing you to run your business as a basic. So that's kind of the 9 pillars of the business model canvas, just going over them very quickly. So we're going to have a look at kind of a live example now. Lee's very kindly offered to show us his canvas that he's done with Outlaw Social, which I thought was a good idea because we can get to know his brand a little bit more and look in a bit more depth at what Outlaw Social do. Has anyone got any bursting questions before we look at Lee's template?
Stop sharing. Yeah, does anyone have any questions about the foundations of the business model canvas? No, don't think so.
Okay, great.
All good. We can crack on, I think. If there are any questions, just put them in the chat box and we'll come back to them throughout or at the end. Cool.
Okay, Lee. So I'm hoping that you can kind of feed in here so we can understand what you were thinking at the time when you were filling out the business model canvas for Outlaw, and maybe just how useful of a tool you found it within yourself and the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably the most important thing to say is that we do have a more detailed business plan, but the canvas for us, because it's so flexible, like we review it quite regularly. So when this crisis that we're going through started, it was the first place that I went to be able to see just visually where we were at with the business and what leverage we had and potentially what opportunities we had to pivot as well. So that's definitely we use it all the time, Vic. So it's really, really useful.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's a proper live tool. Can you scroll up slightly so everyone in the webinar can see the bottom?
Yeah.
There we go. That's fine.
Cool.
Okay, Lee. So customer segments for Outlaw Social. Do you want to talk us a little bit through?
Yeah, sure. So the way that we look at customer segments is, in its simplest form, what types of customers can we add the most value to as a business? And I think that's really important, or it's been really useful for us in really narrowing our focus, right down to the types of content that we put out, or the products that we develop, or services that we develop, by really understanding where we fit in the marketplace, and what customers we serve and want to serve, really puts us in a strong position to create products and services, which I'll explain in the value proposition. But we've, in terms of ideal customer personas, we've kind of got 2 different types. So as you can see, customer 1, we've kind of allocated a average turnover of that customer, which would be between 1 to 10 million. They would be an established growing brand with a need to outsource either the strategy of their marketing and or the actual tactics of implementing that strategy. So they probably lack the internal resource or skill to be able to do that effectively in-house. So they might have a marketing manager or CMO who looks after their marketing, but they still have requirements to outsource to external providers. And often, a lot of the time, our clients are doing marketing, so they have a budget, but they're a little bit perplexed, or they're just struggling to join the dots and really see the return on their marketing. So that's customer 1. Customer 2 would be sort of turnover £250,000 up to £1 million turnover. A growing, ambitious business with a forward-thinking owner or founder. A lot of our conversations are with founders, managing directors, marketing directors, that sort of stuff. That's That tends to be where the conversation starts for us. Another good indicator of an ideal customer is someone who has identified that they actually have a marketing budget, and they've allowed between, as a general rule of thumb, 2 to 3% of their turnover to invest into their marketing. And then the final point there is perhaps a small marketing team or a marketing manager, but generally they, as much as they have a budget, they do have a requirement to outsource to either a company or a collection of companies to deliver their work.
That's great. So you've got probably three personas there that you can develop a value proposition around, and you could definitely drill down into more detail in terms of customer 1 and customer 2. Actually give them, like we've talked about, give them a name, give them some more depth to who they are. That's something you could do if you wanted to as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually do that. So because we're quite creative, and I would encourage other people to do this, but once we understand our different customer personas, we actually draw them. So we draw them up, we give them a name, we give them a job title, we note down their interests, we note down their pain points, what they love to do in their downtime, what kind of social channels they hang out on, all of that granular detail that allows us to really paint a picture and bring that persona to life, so that they don't just feel like a statistic or a piece of data. They're an actual human being that we can connect with.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can clearly see from the value proposition that Lee and Outlaw have kind of put some thoughts into how they want to come across as an organisation. They're not just saying that they're the best at something, they've got some real value behind what they're saying. So transparency, trust, business growth, responsibility, values led. So you can really understand from some of the things that they've written in their value proposition who they stand for as a company and how they want to stand out.
And those, so like when we speak about value proposition, episode 2 is going to be all about, so on Thursday, it's going to be all about clarifying your brand. And part of that is really delving into the detail of what role you play in your customers' lives. And that's what we call in the industry archetypes. So it's really understanding what type of business you are and what lies behind the business, what is your purpose. So we're going to delve into a lot more detail on brand purpose in episode 2.
Great.
Yeah.
And then the channels that you've talked about, kind of like word of mouth, yep, really important. And then your kind of marketing channels, so content marketing, social media, thought leadership, events, and then practicing what you preach, so ensuring that you live by your value proposition, developing personal brand, guest speaking. So they're all excellent channels to reach customers, which you've identified there.
I think just so on channels, I think this is a really important one. Once we get to the tactics of trying to reach the ideal customers that you've covered in value proposition and customer segments, it can be quite, and I assume, and I think a lot of brand owners fall into this, they might see a new channel, like for example TikTok, that's very popular just now. It's a younger demographic. They might see other businesses, competitors, or brands that they like using certain channels, and they might feel a need to also use those channels. But when you have the luxury of really knowing your customers down to what newspapers they read, what magazines they read, what social channels they're likely to spend their time on, you can start to select channels that are appropriate, and you can start to put all of your energy and more of your budget into the channels where your customers are actually likely to be hanging out. So that's definitely a good area to look at. Don't just select a channel because you think you have to, or because your competitors are doing it.
Or because you like it, because this isn't about you, it's about the customer.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Okay, next slide then.
Cool.
So customer relationships, like we said, this is kind of about the customer journey. So what have we got here? Like, yep, long-term relationships with good retention, adding value to your customers, making them feel like an extended part of the team, lead generation, nurturing, business development. Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit more in depth about those things?
Yeah, so you'll see for our example, we are very relationship led. And when we talk about customer relationships, really what we're talking about is how your business engages on a daily basis with your customers. So we now know what role you play in their lives, but how do you actually live that out on a day-to-day basis? And for us, it's really all about value. So what time can we spend with our customers on a daily basis, either in person or over the phone, or providing added value through additional content or support, or just an ear to listen to an idea that the client might have. And for different businesses, this will be completely different. There might be some business owners on here who maybe have a product, but they potentially deal through retailers or Amazon, so they perhaps don't really have that one-to-one customer relationship. So they might need to take a different approach. So yeah, it's unique to each business, and it's just the way that you really live out your values with your customers.
Yeah, most definitely. And then revenue streams, I guess that one's, a little bit more black and white. Outlaw has their obviously training and consultancy, their ongoing relationships with customers that lead to their management of marketing, bespoke things that you do for customers and projects as well. So the revenue stream should probably be quite obvious for most, although like we said before, there is room for innovation, most definitely. And the Canvas is a great way to test, different styles of revenue stream, whether it is general, ongoing monthly payments, whether it's a freemium model. There's so many different kind of revenue models out there that are potentially a good fit for organizations.
Yeah, and I think what's really good and has been good for us, when you've got your different customer personas, your ideal customers, and you've maybe prioritized them in order of who is your ideal customer, the dream customer that you really want to work with. And when you balance that up on one page against your revenue streams, what you can actually start to play about with is you can start to question perhaps the profitability of certain revenue streams and products that you've got, and you can really challenge them to make sure that they align. So using my business as an example, does training and consultancy as a revenue stream and as a service really match up to our number one customer, which is that 1 million to 10 million pound bracket? Do they regularly buy training and consultancy from us? And if they don't, why are we offering it? Is it a distraction? Could we put more of our resource and time into our ongoing marketing management, for example? So I definitely challenge business owners to play about with revenue streams and not be scared to either drop them or add new revenue streams if they match up with the ideal customer that they're trying to build a relationship with.
I think that's a really important point, because so many people add bells and whistles when they don't actually need to. So it is important to understand what drives your customer and what they're looking for, from a revenue stream potential from your business.
Yeah.
Okay, so key resources. This one's pretty straightforward as well. So You've obviously got your human resources, which is your team. You've got your kind of digital IP, intellectual resources, and you've got your physical resources as well, which is, your workspace. So you've got that one that's pretty clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is really just the key foundations that allow us to deliver our value proposition in line with our values. Yeah, so it's and that key resources feed into what are the next few in terms of cost structure. So our key resources have a cost, so we need to take them into account. But I'll let you move on to that.
Yeah, of course, that's fine. Your key activities. So what does Lee do in his business to make sure it aligns with the value proposition? So you can see here the kind of bespoke stuff, the solutions-led approach, and listing actually all of the services that Outlaw offers. That is quite straightforward.
And just quickly on that, so key activities, I think, because using our business as an example, so we are a full service marketing agency, so it makes it, there might be businesses on here or organizations that have multiple different personas and have multiple different services that they offer, and it makes it all that little bit more difficult to really speak directly to your audience. We always say, if you're not speaking particularly in the current times, there's a lot of noise on social media and digital. If you're not speaking exclusively to your target customer, then you're kind of speaking to no one, and your message is going to get diluted and it's going to get lost. And when you've got multiple services, it's really important to come back to this canvas or your business model and really challenge, are you clearly articulating these services? Are they really solving a problem? Are some of them a distraction? Should you be focusing on others? So it's really good to just constantly challenge yourself on that.
Great. And then key partners, we can see that Lee's quite obviously identified different partners that he can outsource to, or different skill sets that are out with his organization, which is great. One thing that's maybe missing here but might be elsewhere is more the strategic partnerships, like I touched on, in terms of those who might share your target audience, that you can use as leverage to grow your own business. Have you got any thoughts on that one, Lee?
Well, I think collaboration is the key word of post COVID-19. I think working with complementary brands, businesses, partners, particularly from a marketing perspective, if you can look at what partners or businesses share the same audience as me, and how can we collaborate to add value to that audience? Could we co-host a podcast? Could we do a webinar series together? How can we collaborate, and how can we add value to the same customers? I think that's a massive opportunity for people. I think to collaborate with businesses or partners that they might not have made the most of that relationship, or might not have seen it as a potential partnership in the past. I think there's a good opportunity to pivot and really nurture those relationships moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that, 100%. And then finally, we've got cost structure. So, the most important costs to get your business to work. So you've identified those kind of, human resource costs, software cost, partnerships, and, the fixed stuff, the offices. So
yeah, and I think when you've got cost structure and revenue streams up against each other, and for the more analytical people in the group or people who have the detail, just go ahead and put in the figures. And once you've got the figures in, you can start to play around with, well, what happens if I remove this main revenue stream? How does that affect the cost structure? So you can start to balance off and test changing products or services.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So next slide then, Lee.
Cool.
And yeah, this is really just to summarise that, as we've seen, the business model canvas is a live, living document. It's a really useful tool to sense check your business, to ensure that you're still aligned, or that you're aligned to where you think you are. Like I say, share it within your team, get everyone to fill out a canvas and understand where the gaps are or where the differences lie. Use it to test potential different business models, revenue streams, customer segments, and just see how it all aligns to your value proposition. Be as focused as possible with a canvas. This might mean that you do 2 or 3 canvases for different ideas rather than trying to cram everything onto one. And really focus in on the value proposition and the customer segments. They are the most key elements to the canvas and really to your business in terms of positioning, marketing clarity and strategy, and building a really strong brand. And as Lee touched on there, the next seminar on Thursday is about building your brand. So it's a nice lead on from the business model canvas. Be really good in advance of that. If you're thinking about joining on Thursday, maybe have a little go at a business model canvas, get everything on a page, so that as you move forward with the next seminar, you've got something that you can kind of look at and iterate as you move forward. I've got another little poll there, but we'll hold off just till the end to run that one. Useful links. Lee sent you through the link to Kanbanizer, I think, yesterday, and they've got strategizer.com as well, which can be useful. And that's a quick summary, really, of Business Model Canvas. The next slide is just a wee thank you, and if you have any questions. I'm very aware that it's 10:57 if people are wanting to do the NHS 2-minute silence. I don't want to keep them on the call too long.
Well, just
do you want to run the last poll that we have quickly?
Yeah, let's run the poll. Let's go for that. Let's see what people think.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very quick run through of the canvas, but interesting to see if you think it would be a useful tool for your business. One thing I do recommend, if you fill in the business model canvas, is to give it to someone else and get them to really challenge you on it. That's something I do with clients, is I'll get them to go away and fill out the canvas. Then I'll meet them again and I'll challenge them on some of the elements, challenge them on the depth or some of the assumptions that they've made in it. And that's a really important step, because otherwise you've not really got anyone giving you a sense check.
There we go. So everyone found it useful. Just before we finish, hopefully everyone found that useful. Episode 2 is on Thursday. I'm going to get my learning hat on and make sure that we can see all your amazing faces on Thursday, and we don't have technical glitches. We'll also send a follow-up email with more information on Victoria and what she shared. Yeah, that's hopefully we'll see you on episode 2. If there's any final questions, feel free to pop them in the chat.
Yeah, or if you raise your hand just now, maybe Lee will be able to see if you've got any particular questions, and I can stick around on the chat and answer them for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Can't see any particular questions. Just loads of people saying thanks. Yeah, if anyone wants to hang around and ask a question, me and Vix will be hanging around here anyway.